Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker. I beg to move that this House urges the Government to negotiate continued access to the Erasmus Plus programme and its successor schemes beyond 2020. Almost 2 years ago now, on from the referendum, the Government has not answered some of the key questions around continued participation. And generally, asks questions: how will we continue to cooperate with these programmes post-2020? The British Government can't afford to duck this issue, because that would put at risk the future openness and vibrancy of our university and youth sector. I applied for this debate because I want to bring this issue to the Chamber for the first time in 5 years. I've also done it to hope that we get some reassurances from this Government that we will actually commit to preserving the scheme post-2020. Now, I'm aware, of course, that many issues in this chamber, Brexit hangs over us. However, I want to stress that this cuts across political party. It cuts across, really, pro and anti-Brexit lines. I gained support of this debate from all members of the House and parties, from the 2017 intake to the Father of the House, and representing all 4 constituencies. And what united them was a deep concern about the lack of full commitment for the Government to maintain the Erasmus Plus scheme 2020 and to get on with the negotiations of the modalities of how we would do that. What is at stake here is the future existence of one of our most successful exports, the higher education sector, an export which has greatly enriched this country, and whether we maintain an open and accessible higher education sector or not. I will do.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker, and I thank the honourable member and congratulate him for securing this debate. He talks about the export, but of course what we've got here is a situation whereby there are 10,000 students per year who leave the UK to study abroad, but there are 30,000 that come over. So why on earth wouldn't the European Union also want our engagement to continue?
I would agree that it's very likely that the European Union will want us to continue to engage in it. That's why it's, to some extent, an easy door that we should be pushing at and walking through. I would point out, however, the incoming students, foreign students coming into the UK, are economically an export for the UK because they bring foreign money in to invest in the country. So as an export, actually, it's a net exporter of cash to us, even though it's a bit strange for us to understand because they're coming into the country.
On that point, I thank my honourable friend for giving way, and I think that we would all acknowledge that the Erasmus Plus scheme has been a huge benefit to our country. Indeed, over the last 30 years, 600,000 people from the UK have benefited, and indeed it is unique in the sense that it actually provides additional funding for disadvantaged and those students with disabilities, and that's why the Government should be fully in support of the Erasmus Plus scheme.
I totally agree, and I do believe the Government is in favour of the Erasmus Plus scheme. We've heard very positive sounds from the Government, but the question is now comes a point where we have to put effectively our metaphorical money where our mouth is. The Erasmus is a valuable resource that contributes a vast amount in terms of scope and depth to British universities and the youth sector. It was, of course, the current scheme was formed in 2014 when myself and other colleagues spent 3 years in and out of Brussels negotiating the current scheme that we have. And it brought together the Socrates programme, the Erasmus programme, the Leonardo programme, the Grundtvig programme, and the Youth in Action programme. So that's the higher education, the technical education, the schools exchange programme, and the youth work programme. And sometimes we forget that Erasmus Plus incorporates all those different sectors of exchange.
Can my friend give way?
I will do.
He's making a really excellent and powerful speech. I'm someone who went on one of the predecessor schemes to Erasmus, and I wondered if he'd seen the figures from Universities UK that the percentage of BME graduates who are unemployed and haven't done Erasmus is 7.8%. Oh, sorry, hang on. percentage who are unemployed that hadn't studied abroad is 7.8%, but 4.6% of black graduates who have done student mobility projects such as Erasmus and its predecessors. And, you know, I didn't turn out too badly having done it. Would you not agree that for a government that places great faith in the race disparity audit, it's something very important that we should cherish and make it a priority of these negotiations?
Good point.
I totally agree. And some of the predecessor and current programmes of Erasmus Plus are particularly good at diversity. 50% of its participants are from economically deprived or other minority backgrounds, and it really helps improve not only grades but longer-term outcomes. And I think that you have done very well for yourself, if I must say, the honourable member. With a budget of €14.7 billion, Erasmus, of course, is an educational scheme that is truly not only continental, but it is global in reach. It covers... Yeah, go on.
I'm particularly interested to know, seeing as he had such a good understanding of this, why, with such a wide-ranging Erasmus Plus programme already in existence, that the budget is estimated to double to 30 billion. What would we get for that? What would all Erasmus participants get for that?
Well, that's a good question. At the moment, for example, on the youth part of the programme, it is not only, from British applications I'm just talking about here, it is not only fully subscribed. Projects that in other places would get accepted are having to not be accepted at the moment because the money runs out before you're able to work down the whole list. I sat on the programming committee for a number of years, and we would analyse good programmes, and then we would just work our way down until the money ran out. And at the moment, that money is running out about halfway down that list. So what the doubling of the budget would do would allow good projects that help disadvantaged British kids to be able to go and travel and do exchanges. So that's the exact answer of why we need an increased budget, and that's why it is being negotiated with the Commission at the moment. Every sector of lifelong learning advantages in some way or another from the Erasmus scheme, and most experts agree that Erasmus has a positive impact, as we've already talked about. Of course, research shows that 81% of students that have studied, have gone abroad studying with the Erasmus scheme, get a first class or upper second honours. This is 10% higher than the average in the university sector. Some schemes that have been taken... at least 2 million young people across the continent have gone on these schemes in the last 30 years, and 600,000 of them, just with this current scheme, have been from the UK. I will do, yes.
Thank him so much for giving way. And I didn't know until he started to speak of his personal involvement in this programme, so it's excellent news. And can I tell him, my own son, I've just received a message from him, he took part, he's one of the students. He said, this is a programme that builds future leaders with the self-confidence, determination, resilience of living and making it work in a foreign culture. So I'm sure he's one of many others.
I totally agree, and I will try and touch on one case study from my local university as well that will say very, very similar.
I thank him for giving way. I have been a foreign modern languages teacher for some years, and I know knowing a foreign language is just such a huge advantage also for future employment. And the Erasmus programme, wouldn't he agree, is a very, very good vehicle to make that happen. So it really gives fantastic opportunities to young people for further employment in this country.
I totally agree. I know in my own constituency, where the biggest single employer is the headquarters of American Express Europe, the biggest problem that they have is finding young people with language skills to go into that sector, and the Erasmus scheme really helps advantage that. And of course, being an alumnus of Sussex University and having parts of that university in my constituency, it would be, of course, amiss for me not to mention the role that Sussex University had in founding the Erasmus programme. It was Howell Jones who served as the Director of Education, Training and Policy at the European Commission for 20 years at the start of the programme. In a recent speech, talked about modelling the Erasmus programme on the work that he pioneered at the University of Sussex, where they had made sure that all disciplines, not just language, but importantly including language, allowed a study year abroad that was part of the degree programme, not just an additional to the degree programme. And his vision was to get that recognised across Europe. He said, "I was convinced that such an idea could be developed on a European-wide base." Well, that idea became Erasmus, and now Erasmus+. So, Mr Deputy Speaker, from Sussex University, an idea was born, an idea that has been so entrenched in the learning of so many that it is now, for many students, a byword for student exchange itself. And I will do.
Congratulate him on bringing this matter to the House for consideration, and just to show that it's not just his own university that does so well. There's other universities across the United Kingdom do equally well, Queen's University being one of those. In 2017-2018, Queen's University attracted some €1.4 million for this project, the sixth highest in the whole of the United Kingdom. And since 2012, 1,429 Queen's University students have benefited to the point of €4.68 million as well. Queen's University in Northern Ireland are also doing their bit.
Fantastic. Many universities are doing their bit. It's really good to hear what Queen's are doing. And of course, just in the last 3 years alone, £230 million has been invested in the higher education sector part for the UK of the Erasmus scheme. Amy Walker from Sussex University graduated with a BA Honours for International Development, and she says she spent 6 months studying in Amsterdam, and she believes it was part of the most formative and productive and, of course, happiest moments in her life.
Would the honourable gentleman give way?
I will do.
I thank the honourable gentleman for giving way. He's making an excellent speech, and I'm glad he's brought this matter to the attention of the House. Would he agree with me that, in addition to all the many benefits members have already mentioned, there is a benefit to this country of increasing our soft power, particularly important if we're leaving as we're leaving the European Union, that we have as many good relationships with other countries as possible, and this is absolutely one way of creating that soft power.
That soft power is so vital, and also is so vital providing diverse international campuses that then encourage other students from other parts of the world to want to come and study at. It kind of breeds a virtuous circle effect. Amy, that I was talking about, says that she believes her time in Amsterdam gave her the motivation to actually study. Beforehand, she was maybe not so motivated, but now understands the importance of learning in a deeper way that she just didn't beforehand. I've got another student, of course, Ifdal Chantel, who studied BA English language teaching, Italian and Spanish. My goodness, an incredible list of things to study, from Sussex, who said every person that they have met in the Erasmus programme cannot praise it enough, and considers it enormously valuable, particularly for language teaching, as we have already heard. I will do.
Is my friend aware of a report by Universities UK which says that students studying overseas are significantly more likely to enter managerial positions within 10 years after graduating, half as likely to be less likely to be long-term unemployed as their non-mobile colleagues, and more likely to start their own companies compared to other graduates? And would my friend agree with me, therefore, that making sure the Erasmus Plus programme continues long-term is absolutely invaluable for the benefits of this country long-term?
I would totally agree, and there are examples coming out of our ears, effectively, of the good work that this programme does. And in fact, Universities UK last month launched their Go International project, which was outlining reasons why international exchange is vital for our economy, our education sector and our young people. And they produced this very good little report. The Minister, in fact, came and launched it with us, and he made some very good words about the importance of international exchange. We need those good words to turn into good actions to secure the position of the Erasmus programme, a position that I actually believe we all really share.
Would my honourable friend give way again?
I will do.
I'm grateful to my honourable friend. Would he not agree with me that, as well as the obvious sort of numerical financial benefits that higher education brings that we can see in Horizon 2020 funding and the Galileo programme, that there are, obviously he's alluded to it himself, socio-cultural benefits too, that these type of exchanges bring. And the fact that 2 years on from the referendum we're still in the dark about what will happen post-2020 shows that, you know, with a lack of contingency planning, they rushed into this referendum and they still don't know what they're doing now.
The honourable gentleman's already used his 15 minutes, so just to say, look, I want him to get to the end of his speech, but if he keeps giving interventions, we're not going to get there. We do have other speakers wishing to come in, so I'm sure he'll want to get towards them quickly.
I understand. I've been very generous and probably too generous on on speeches. I mean, of course, I wanted to mention that it's not just the university exchange programme that is important. The European Voluntary Service has allowed young Europeans to travel around, and 50% of those people are from disadvantaged backgrounds. And in many respects, it was the forerunner of the International Citizenship Service, which we now run in this country. And the question is, how will the International Citizenship Service integrate into the new programme that goes forward? Mr. Deputy Speaker, Erasmus is currently being negotiated at the moment, but there are no clear guarantees from the government on the future, and it is adding great uncertainty, I think, for the sector. Now, whilst the Prime Minister gave assurances at the end of last year that Erasmus would be maintained until the end of the current financial arrangements, there have been few assurances beyond that. In December, the government confirmed that they value international exchanges, and in the event of a no deal, they said students could continue on. And in her Florence speech, she also indicated that. The first question I asked in this chamber, in fact, when I arrived here a year ago, was would we continue post-2020? And the reality is that we've not yet seen a strategy of how that will be achieved from this government. And the European Union last month already proposed how they see the strategy being outlined. They have proposed that countries can buy in to the new programme. But what they do outline is that non-EEA and non-candidate and non-partner countries could only take part as third countries. The government must, of course, use its position now to make sure in the Education Council they are negotiating for this clause to be loosened up. So I guess I need to ask, can the Minister tell me what discussions he has had in the Education Council to ensure the clauses will allow third countries to participate at a decision-making level, not just at a buying-in level with no decisions of the targets of the programme? What instructions has the Minister given to his officials to negotiate those respective clauses that are being negotiated at the moment on the statutory basis? What discussions has he had with his counterparts in Europe on this? And what coordination has he had with the Department for exiting the EU to ensure that, as we are likely to not be an EU member and not be an EEA member and clearly not be a candidate or partner country member, that we can still take part as a former member that wants good relations with the European Union? Many of these questions I raised at the Westminster Hall. How does the current programme cooperate with our International Citizenship Service programmes? How are we setting out our strategy? And I'm yet to see the answers to that. I fear without proper negotiation we will have to buy in access like Canada. Now, Canadian undergraduates do not have access to the full exchange part of the programme, and Canadian youth organisations cannot initiate programmes and activities. And with so many international youth organisations headquarters here, like Girl Guiding, and we risk those organisations' future if we do not allow them to initiate programmes here in the UK. To resolve this issue will require great clarity and direction and acknowledgement of the great benefits of the programme. In the meantime, if this government hopes to maintain a youth and university sector that is open with other universities across Europe, it should start by offering a full and comprehensive assurance that the Erasmus Plus and all related programmes include the European Solidarity Corps, which takes over from the volunteering part, will be maintained plus 2020. It should seek to represent Britain's interests in the Council and make an understanding understanding and underwriting that if we are unable to negotiate access, we will ensure that Britain creates a scheme that is equivalent and equally financed. And finally, I would like to emphasise a few of the key statistics of why the Erasmus scheme is important. Some 16,000 students, young people and other staff from the UK go on this scheme year on year. And it's important that we keep this scheme open to staff as well as students, because if staff can't exchange their ideas, they won't be able to promote it and coordinate and make sure that students continue going onto it. As I've mentioned, 50% are from disadvantaged backgrounds. And of course, in the youth programme, it's almost 50% of the young people go on that part of the programme, but it only equates for 10% of the cost. So the whole package of the programme is important. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, I urge the Government to negotiate continued access to the Erasmus Plus programme and all its successors, not after Brexit Day, but now. Thank you.